Top 10 Scary Florida Urban Legends. 10. The Bloody Bucket Bridge. Wauchula is the county seat of Hardy County, just southeast of Tampa. It's also the cucumber capital of the world apparently. But for our purposes, it's also home to the Bloody Bucket Bridge. The details on this eerie legend vary widely depending on the source. Apparently, around the time of the Civil War, a slave served as the town's midwife. Haunted by the memory of her own child being taken from her, she turned to smothering the babies she delivered, telling the parents they were stillborn. She would carry their remains in a bucket to a nearby bridge and dump the remains in the river. Eventually driven mad by her murder spree, she would later see the buckets fill with blood on their own. Rumor has it if you visit the bridge on a full moon, you can see the river water running red with blood. 9. The Devil's Chair, Casadaga, a small unincorporated hamlet in Volusia County, is known for two unusual things, being called the psychic capital of the world, for a large number of psychics and mediums who made their home there, and for the Devil's Chair. Located in a small cemetery, the Devil's Chair is a wide brick bench that legend has it was built by the devil himself. Each night at midnight, the devil returns to lounge in his chair. Rumor has it that if you sit on it, he whispers evil ideas to you and you're forever haunted by the experience. Oh, and here's an even weirder legend: if that's possible, if you leave a full can of beer on the chair, unopened, and return the next morning, the can will be empty, and still unopened. Now that's truly evil. 8. The Riddle House. This Edwardian house was built in Palm Beach in 1905. From the outside it looks like nothing out of the ordinary, but its history has attracted paranormal enthusiasts from all over the world. Its original purpose was as a funeral home, housing bodies overnight before their burial. In the 1920s it was bought by Carl Riddle, who turned it into a home for his family. They were terrorized by spirits of the dead from years gone by. Eventually one of the Riddle's employees hung himself in the attic room of the Riddle House because he saw no way out of the hard times he had fallen upon. Carl wrote in his diary that after that, the energy in the house changed. Employees heard voices when no one was there. Carl removed the beam from which the man hung himself, but the hauntings still continued. The family were forced to leave. Years later, the house was taken apart and moved to the South Florida Fairgrounds, and amazingly, people claim those ghosts went with it. They say some evil spirit still lives in the attic, attacking anyone who dares climb the ladder. 7. The Florida Skunk Ape, also known as the Swamp Cabbage Man, the Stink Ape and Myakka Skunk Ape. This legendary creature has been said to inhabit Florida, North Carolina and Arkansas. The stories date back to the 60s and 70s, during the time of Bigfoot mania, when an ape-like creature running on two legs was spotted in South Florida. The creature gets its name from its pungent odor, said to be a byproduct of living alongside alligators and other swamp inhabitants. There's actually an official skunk ape research headquarters in Ocho-P where a researcher collects and investigates reports of swamp ape sightings. If you visit, maybe bring them an air freshener as a gift. 6. Spook Hill. In Lake Wales, there's a gravity hill that freaks out those traveling through by car. Stop your car in the right place on Spook Hill, put it in neutral and watch as your vehicle rolls up the hill. Just remember to turn your flashers on first, this is still an active road. On North Wales Drive, a sign explains it. Many years ago an Indian village on Lake Wales was plagued by raids of a huge gator. The chief, a great warrior, killed the gator in a battle that created a small lake. The chief was buried on the north side. Pioneer male riders first discovered their horses laboring downhill, thus naming it Spook Hill. When the road was paved, cars coasted uphill. Is this the gator seeking revenge, or the chief still trying to protect his land? 5. Grave of the Tallahassee Witch, in 1889. Elizabeth Bessie Budd Graham was buried in the Old City Cemetery in Tallahassee. The 23-year-old was a wife and mother, and yet her tombstone is among the elaborate in the cemetery. Could it be because she was a witch? That's the legend, though no historical reports link her with witchcraft. Among the clues, the grave faces west, contrary to Christian tradition, and the tombstone contains an unusual epitaph, adapted from Edgar Allan Poe's Lenore. Broken is the golden bowl, the spirit flown forever. Let the bell toll. A saintly soul floats on the Stygian river, come let the burial rite be read. The funeral song be sung, an anthem for the queenliest dead that died so young. A dirge for her the doubly dead in that she died so young. Scholars of the occult say the passage is full of subtle hints. Broken in the bowl refers to killing a vampire. Doubly dead specifically refers to witchcraft, in that a witch can only be dead once she's killed twice. 4. The ghosts of the St. Augustine Lighthouse. The St. Augustine Lighthouse was built in the 1600s by Spanish settlers and served the city for many years until tidal erosion and damage from harsh weather conditions made it necessary for a new one to be constructed. Its replacement, built in 1874, is a St. Augustine historic landmark visited by thousands of people each year. It's also well known for its ghostly inhabitants and has been featured on TV's popular Ghost Hunters show. During its long history, several tragic events have occurred that many feel attribute to the unusually high level of paranormal energy and ghost sightings within the lighthouse and on its grounds. One of the first was when the lighthouse keeper Mr. Andrew fell to his death while painting the tower. During one of the visits from the Ghost Hunters show, they captured an apparition on film that many believed to be the old keeper's ghost, still watching over the lighthouse. Another horrific event was the death of two young girls who drowned when the handcart they were playing in broke and fell into the ocean. Many have seen at least one of the girls roaming about, and others have heard the voices of children playing inside and outside the building. No matter what anyone believes, the fact that there is something mysterious and unusual about this famous St. Augustine icon is never disputed. 3. The hanging tree at Captain Tony's Saloon. Not only is Captain Tony's Saloon known as one of the most haunted places in Key West, It is also called one of the most notorious places in Key West. This bar is famous for many reasons, and one of those is because it was the famous watering hole of Ernest Hemingway and Jimmy Buffett. This bar has quite a checkered past to it, and there are some very friendly and unfriendly ghosts who still love this watering hole. What is it about Captain Tony's? This bar opened up in the mid-1800s, and before it was a bar, it was actually the city's morgue. Just like most morgues, it had a history of horrifying happenings. It was hit by a hurricane in 1885 and was completely destroyed. Along with the building going into the sea, many bodies did as well. The scene was terrifying and looked like something out of a horror film. There were bodies floating and scattered in the water. This could be how some of the rumors of the bar being haunted began. There is a part of the story that has quite the creepy surprise to it as well. When there were renovations being done on the bar, over a dozen bodies were found in the floorboards. These bodies have been said to be the spirits that haunt the saloon to this day. The lady in blue is just one of the ghosts that visitors have seen. She is often seen walking up and down the hallways and sometimes hiding in the bathrooms of the bar. She is actually not the only ghost that likes to scare the patrons, but there are more haunted places that we want to share with you. 2. Sunshine Skyway Ghost. The Sunshine Skyway Bridge was a modern marvel when it opened in 1954. The bridge spans the mouth of Tampa Bay, connected St. Petersburg on the north with Bradenton on the south. But due to its height, it has also been an infamous spot for suicide jumpers over the years. More than 200 deaths over the decade, according to some reports. Drivers on the bridge have reported seeing a beautiful blonde hitchhiker on the bridge. When they pick her up, she begins to cry as the car approaches the top of the span. When the driver turns around to ask what's wrong, the woman has vanished. In 1980, the bridge was struck by a freighter, collapsing the central span and killing 36 people. 1. Robert the Doll. Not for the faint of heart, Robert the Doll really exists. The myths surrounding him vary, especially since he became so popular on the internet. The doll was given to artist Robert Eugene Otto in the late 1800s or early 1900s by his grandfather while he was on a trip to Germany. The doll, which he named after himself, then took on a life of its own and began to scare the family. Otto is said to have kept his doll into adulthood, and it subsequently led his late wife to insanity. The doll is currently residing in the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida. Visitors must ask Robert politely if they want to take his photo. If they mock him or take his photo without permission, Robert is said to lay a curse on them. Although, according to David L. Sloan, an author and ghost expert from Key West, he believes that it's dangerous to ask for Robert's permission, because if you ask an entity for permission, you're basically asking for trouble, and he says just be respectful.